The rain lashed against the city streets like furious hands as Lena Stevens clutched her 6-month-old daughter Lucy closer to her chest. The thin jacket she wore offered scant protection from the cold November downpour. Her heart raced as she glanced at her wristwatch. It was already 20 minutes past the scheduled time for her second job interview of the day. The first interview had been a disaster. The manager had barely glanced at Lucy before telling Lena they needed someone with fewer distractions. With the babysitter having canceled at the last minute and no funds to spare for another missed opportunity, Lena had no choice but to bring her baby along to the bus stop. The wind whipped sheets of rain sideways, offering little shelter. Lena bounced Lucy gently, whispering soothing words. "It's okay, baby girl," she murmured. "Just a little longer." But inside, panic clawed at her chest. Rent was due in 3 days, and the electricity had already been shut off once this month. She needed this job desperately. That a sleek black car pulled up to the curb, its tinted windows hiding the occupant. The back door swung open. Without thinking, Lena ducked inside with Lucy, assuming it was the rideshare she had splurged on as a last resort, her final $15 gone to ensure she made it to the interview on time. "Thank you so much for stopping. I really appreciate this," she began, but her words died in her throat. Instead of a driver, a man in an expensive suit sat across from her, his face a mask of surprise. This wasn't her ride at all. She had climbed into a stranger's car, a very wealthy stranger's car, judging by the leather interior and the subtle scent of expensive cologne. "I'm so sorry," Lena stammered, her cheeks burning with embarrassment as she fumbled for the door handle. "I thought you were my ride. We'll get out right away." "Wait." The man's voice was quiet but firm. He studied her with piercing blue eyes. "Where are you headed in such a hurry in this weather?" Lena froze, her hand still on the door. The stranger appeared to be in his early 40s, with salt and pepper hair and a face that seemed rarely given to smiles. Every instinct screamed at her to grab Lucy and flee, but the relentless rain and the weight of her circumstances held her in place. "I have a job interview," she said at last, "at Westside Financial Services. I'm already late." The man's eyebrows rose slightly. "Interesting coincidence. I own Westside Financial." Lena's stomach dropped. Of all the cars in the city, she had accidentally climbed into the one belonging to the owner of the company where she was interviewing. Her one chance ruined before she even arrived. "What position?" he asked. "Administrative assistant," Lena replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucy chose that moment to let out a soft cry. Lena rocked her gently, painfully aware of her worn clothes, the bag that served as both purse and diaper bag, and how out of place they looked in this man's pristine car. "Drive. We're making a stop," the man said, pressing a button. Then he turned those intense eyes back to Lena. "I'm Elijah Morgan." "And you are Lena Stevens," she replied, trying to sound confident despite the circumstances. "And this is my daughter Lucy." Elijah nodded, his expression unreadable. "Well, Lena Stevens, it seems the universe has arranged for your interview to come to you." The car pulled smoothly into traffic. Lena felt a flutter of panic. "Where are we going?" "To get some coffee," Elijah replied, "and to figure out why someone with your qualifications would apply for an entry-level position when your resume indicates you have a master's degree in business analytics." Lena stared at him, confused. "How do you know what's on my resume?" "I review all final candidates personally," he said. "Your application stood out, but I was curious why someone with your background would apply for an administrative role." Lena looked down at Lucy, who had finally settled against her chest. The truth was simple but humiliating. "I need stable hours, health care, something predictable for my daughter." For a moment, neither spoke. The only sounds were the soft purr of the luxury car's engine and the rain drumming on the roof. "Life doesn't always go as planned," Lena finally added. Something shifted in Elijah's expression, a brief flash of what might have been recognition. "No," he agreed. "It doesn't." The car turned onto a tree-lined street, leading away from the financial district. Lena had no idea where they were headed, but for some reason, her fear was fading. In its place was a strange feeling she couldn't quite name, something between hope and caution. "Tell me about yourself," Lena Stevens, Elijah said. not the carefully rehearsed version you prepared for the interview. Tell me who you really are. As the car glided through the rain-slick streets, Lena took a deep breath and began to speak, unaware that this accidental meeting was about to change her life in ways she could never have imagined. 3 years earlier, Lena had been on track to becoming a financial analyst at one of the city's top firms. She had worked her way through college and graduate school, often juggling 3 jobs to cover tuition and living expenses. Her professors had praised her sharp mind and work ethic. The future had seemed bright and full of promise. Then her mother had gotten sick, cancer, aggressive and unforgiving. Lena had put her career on hold to care for her, watching helplessly as medical bills piled up and savings dwindled. After her mother passed, Lena discovered she was pregnant. The baby's father, a man she had dated briefly, wanted nothing to do with the pregnancy. I had to make choices, Lena explained, surprising herself with her candor. I don't regret having Lucy for a second, but it's been challenging. Elijah listened without interrupting, his face revealing nothing of his thoughts. The car had stopped outside a small cafe tucked between 2 larger buildings. I believe people should be judged on their merits and potential, not their circumstances, he said finally. Let's continue this conversation inside. As they stepped out of the car, Lena wondered what twist of fate had led her here and whether she had just made the biggest mistake of her life or found an unexpected door to something better. The cafe was warm and smelled of fresh coffee and baked bread. Despite its modest exterior, the inside was elegant in an understated way. The few customers typing on laptops or engaged in quiet conversation barely glanced up as Lena followed Elijah to a corner table. Is this okay for the baby? Elijah asked, gesturing to the high chair. A server quickly brought one over. Lena nodded, grateful for his consideration. She settled Lucy in the chair and placed a small toy from her bag on the tray to keep her occupied. She's very well behaved, Elijah observed. She's easy that way, Lena said with a small smile. Makes it possible for me to take her places when I have no choice. Their server appeared, and Elijah ordered coffee for himself. Lena asked for hot tea, conscious of her empty wallet. And bring us some of those cinnamon rolls, Elijah added. They look fresh. When the server left, an awkward silence fell between them. Lena found herself studying the man across from her. Up close, she noticed the fine lines around his eyes and the slight tension in his shoulders beneath the perfectly tailored suit. He might be wealthy, but he didn't seem entirely at ease. You said life doesn't always go as planned, Lena said, breaking the silence. Sounds like you might know something about that. Elijah's eyebrows rose slightly, as if surprised by her directness. You're observant. I've had to be, she replied. He nodded, a hint of respect in his eyes. Fair enough. My life looks perfect on paper. The reality is more complicated. Their drinks arrived, along with a plate of enormous cinnamon rolls still warm from the oven. Lena's stomach growled loudly enough for Elijah to hear. She blushed, but he pretended not to notice, pushing the plate toward her. Please help yourself. I can never finish one of these alone. Lena didn't need to be told twice. It had been hours since her last meal, a hastily eaten peanut butter sandwich before leaving for her first interview. So, Miss Stevens, Elijah said as she took her first delicious bite, tell me why I should hire you for a position that doesn't begin to use your skills or education. Lena swallowed carefully before answering. Because I'll work harder than anyone else. Because I understand value and efficiency from personal experience, not just textbooks. Because I have too much riding on my success to allow myself to fail. And if I were to offer you a position more suited to your qualifications, I'd ask about the hours, the flexibility, and the healthcare coverage before I'd ask about the salary. Maya replied honestly. A practical approach. I don't have the luxury of being impractical, Lena said. She broke off a tiny piece of the cinnamon roll and offered it to Lucy, who grabbed it with chubby fingers and shoved it into her mouth with obvious delight. And what if the position required travel, late nights, unpredictable schedules? Elijah asked. Lena met his gaze steadily. Then I'd have to decline. No matter how good the opportunity, Lucy comes first. For a long moment, Elijah studied her, his expression thoughtful. Then he pulled out his phone and typed something quickly. I'm canceling my meetings for the rest of the afternoon, he explained. I'd like to continue our conversation. Lena glanced at her watch. I should probably try to reschedule the interview. Consider this your interview, Elijah said, a rather unconventional one, I admit. Outside, the rain continued to fall, creating a cozy cocoon around their corner table. As they talked, Lena found herself sharing things she hadn't told anyone. Her fears about raising Lucy alone, her determination to create a stable life for her daughter, her dreams that had been deferred but not abandoned. To her surprise, Elijah shared as well. He spoke of building his company from nothing after leaving an abusive home at 17. He mentioned his failed marriage, a relationship that had looked perfect on paper but had been hollow at its core. My ex-wife wanted the lifestyle but not the man, he said with a wry smile. Can't really blame her. I was always working, building something I thought would make me happy. Did it? Lena asked. Elijah's gaze drifted to the window, watching the rain. It made me successful. That's not the same thing. Lucy began to fuss, and Lena reached in her bag for a bottle. Do you mind if I feed her? She asked. Of course not, Elijah said. As Lena cradled Lucy and gave her the bottle, she caught Elijah watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read, something between wistfulness and curiosity. No children of your own? Lena asked. Elijah shook his head. The marriage ended before that happened. Probably for the best, he paused. But I always thought I'd be a father someday. The simple honesty of his statement touched Lena unexpectedly. This powerful man with his wealth and status suddenly seemed very human, with his own set of disappointments and unfulfilled hopes. It's not too late, she said gently. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, a moment of genuine connection that surprised them both. Elijah was the first to look away. About that job, he said, his voice returning to its businesslike tone. I think I might have a position that would suit both your skills and your situation. I'm listening, Lena said, her heart beating a little faster. Westside is launching a new division focused on financial services for underserved communities. We need someone who understands both analytics and the human side of the equation. Someone who could develop programs that actually help people, not just look good on quarterly reports. Lena's mind raced with possibilities. That sounds interesting. It's a new position. We'd have some flexibility to design it around your schedule. Core hours in the office with the option to work from home when needed. Full benefits from day one. He named a salary that made Lena blink in surprise. That's generous, she managed to say. It's market rate for your qualifications, Elijah corrected. I don't believe in underpaying talent. Lena's natural caution reasserted itself. Why me? You don't know me. This could be a mistake. Elijah smiled, a real smile that transformed his serious face. I trust my instincts, Miss Stevens. They've rarely led me astray. And right now, they're telling me you're exactly what my company needs. As Lucy finished her bottle and drifted to sleep in Lena's arms, Elijah outlined the position in more detail. Every word he spoke made the opportunity sound more perfect and more frightening in its potential to change everything. You don't have to decide right now, Elijah said, noting her conflicted expression. Take a few days to think about it. Lena looked down at her sleeping daughter, then back at the man whose car she had mistakenly entered just hours ago. What if I already know my answer? The Westside Financial Services building loomed 40 stories above the city streets, its glass facade reflecting the morning sunlight. Lena stood at the entrance, Lucy perched on her hip, staring up at what would be her new workplace. This is really happening, Lucy, she whispered to her daughter. Mommy's going to make things better for us. Inside, the security guard smiled and directed her to the executive floor, a detail that still made Lena nervous. Elijah had explained that as the director of the new Community Financial Empowerment Division, she would work closely with the leadership team. The title and responsibility both thrilled and terrified her. The elevator doors opened onto a reception area decorated in muted grays and blues. A woman with a kind smile approached. You must be Lena, she said. I'm Carol, Elijah's executive assistant. He asked me to show you around. She reached out to touch Lucy's cheek gently. And this must be the little one. She's adorable. Thank you, Lena said, relieved by the warm welcome. I'm a little nervous about the daycare arrangement. Don't be, Carol assured her. Elijah had the company daycare expanded last week. It's state-of-the-art now, staffed by professionals with early childhood education degrees. Lena blinked in surprise. He did that in a week. Carol smiled knowingly. When Mr. Morgan decides something needs to happen, it happens quickly. The daycare center was on the third floor, bright and cheerful, with floor-to-ceiling windows and colorful play areas. The staff welcomed Lucy warmly, showing Lena the security features and explaining the check-in process. A small tablet on the wall would allow her to check on Lucy via camera throughout the day. We'll call you immediately if she needs you, the director explained. And you can come down anytime, no questions asked. Leaving Lucy was still difficult, but the knot of anxiety in Lena's stomach loosened slightly as she saw her daughter already reaching for a stuffed elephant, seemingly content. Back on the executive floor, Carol showed Lena to her office, an actual office with a door and windows, not the cubicle she had expected. The space was already set up with a computer, phone, and a small framed photo of Lucy that Lena had shared with HR for her employee badge. That's a nice touch, Lena said, picking up the frame. Mr. Morgan is very detail-oriented, Carol replied. He wanted you to feel welcome. A knock at the open door made them both turn. Elijah stood there, as immaculately dressed as before, but with a slightly more approachable expression. How's the first day so far? He asked. Overwhelming in the best possible way, Lena admitted. Elijah nodded. Good. Carol will introduce you to the rest of the team at our morning meeting. I'd like you to observe today, get a feel for how things work. Tomorrow, you can start sharing your ideas for the new division. Thank you for this opportunity, Lena said sincerely. I won't let you down. I know you won't, Elijah replied with that same confidence he'd shown in the cafe. That's why you're here. After he left, Carol gave Lena a curious look. I've worked with Mr. Morgan for 8 years. I've never seen him take such a personal interest in a new hire. Lena wasn't sure how to respond. She still didn't fully understand why Elijah had offered her this position or why he seemed to believe in her so completely. All she knew was that she couldn't afford to question this chance. The morning meeting introduced Lena to the senior leadership team, a diverse group who welcomed her with varying degrees of warmth. Most seemed genuinely interested in the new community initiative. A few, particularly the older vice presidents, appeared skeptical. So, you'll be heading up our charity project? One gray-haired man said during introductions, his tone dismissive. Actually, Elijah interjected before Lena could respond. The Community Financial Empowerment Division is a revenue-generating arm of the company. Ms. Stevens will be developing programs that provide real value to underserved clients while maintaining healthy profit margins. It's good business, not charity. The subtle rebuke silenced the man, and Lena shot Elijah a grateful look. After the meeting, Lena spent the day learning systems, reviewing company policies, and beginning to sketch out ideas for her new division. Every few hours, she checked the daycare cameras, always finding Lucy happily engaged with the staff or napping peacefully. At 5 o'clock, Carol appeared at her door. Time to go home, Lena. We don't expect new employees to stay late, especially on their first day. Lena glanced at her computer screen, reluctant to leave the proposal she'd started drafting. I just want to finish this thought. The work will be here tomorrow, Carol said kindly. There's always more work, but your baby is only little once. The wisdom in those words struck Lena. For so long, she'd been in survival mode, scrambling from one crisis to the next. The idea that she could actually achieve balance between work and home was still unfamiliar. She saved her document and grabbed her bag. You're right. Thank you. As she left the building with Lucy babbling happily in her arms, Lena spotted Elijah getting into his car at the curb, the same car she had mistakenly entered in the rain a week ago. He saw her and paused, waiting as she approached. Successful first day? He asked. Very, Lena replied, though I'm still catching up to the fact that this is really happening. Elijah smiled, that rare expression that transformed his face. You've earned this, Lena. Never doubt that. As his car pulled away, Lena stood on the sidewalk with Lucy, looking up at the building where she now worked. For the first time in years, She felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. "Come on, baby girl," she said to Lucy. "Let's go home and celebrate with ice cream." As they walked to the bus stop, Lena realized she hadn't felt this light in years. One chance encounter, one mistaken car door, and somehow everything had changed. But even as gratitude filled her, a small voice of caution whispered in her mind. Things that seemed too good to be true usually were. She just hoped this opportunity was the exception. 3 months in her new position, Lena had settled into a routine that still felt miraculous. Each morning, she and Lucy arrived at Westside Financial by 8:30. After dropping Lucy at the daycare center, where her daughter now excitedly pointed to her favorite caregivers, Lena would take the elevator to her office and dive into work she found genuinely fulfilling. The Community Financial Empowerment Division was taking shape. Lena had hired 2 analysts and a community outreach coordinator. Together, they were developing programs to provide affordable banking services, financial literacy education, and small business microloans to neighborhoods typically ignored by traditional banks. Today, Lena was preparing for her first major presentation to the executive board. Her proposal for a mobile banking initiative targeting underbanked communities had moved from concept to detailed implementation plan. Now she needed the board's approval for the full budget. "You've got this," she told her reflection in the bathroom mirror, straightening her blazer, a new purchase that still felt slightly foreign on her shoulders. When she returned to her office, Elijah was waiting, reviewing the presentation materials she had left on her desk. "Good morning," he said, looking up. "These projections are solid." "Thank you," Lena replied, trying to calm the flutter of nerves his presence always triggered. "The board can be tough," Elijah said, closing the folder, "especially on new initiatives that challenge conventional thinking." "But my data is compelling," Lena assured him, though her stomach tightened at the thought of facing 12 executives with decades more experience than her. Elijah studied her face. "You're nervous." "Wouldn't you be?" she countered. He smiled slightly. "I've been presenting to boards since I was younger than you, but yes, it still makes my heart rate tick up a notch." The admission surprised her. Elijah always appeared so confident, so completely in control. "Just remember," he continued, "you know this material better than anyone in that room, including me." The vote of confidence steadied her. "I appreciate that." Elijah moved toward the door, then paused. "How's Lucy adjusting to daycare?" The personal question caught Lena off guard. Elijah rarely asked about her daughter directly, though he always inquired politely about her family's well-being in general terms. "She loves it," Lena said with a smile. "She's saying new words every day and has made friends with another little girl her age." "Children are remarkably adaptable," Elijah observed, "more so than adults sometimes." Before Lena could respond, his professional demeanor returned. "The meeting is at 2. That gives you 3 hours to prepare. If you need anything, Carol can help." After he left, Lena sat at her desk, thinking about the brief glimpse of personal interest he had shown in their day-to-day interactions. Elijah was unfailingly professional, supportive of her work, but maintaining a clear boundary. Sometimes Lena wondered if she had imagined the connection they'd share that rainy day in the cafe. The presentation that afternoon went better than Lena had dared hope. The board members asked tough questions about implementation costs and projected returns, but she had anticipated most of their concerns and came prepared with answers. When the final vote came, her proposal passed unanimously. "Excellent work, Miss Stevens," the board chairman said as the meeting concluded. "It's refreshing to see Westside expanding its vision in this direction." As the boardroom emptied, Elijah approached. "Congratulations. That was impressive." "Thank you for your support," Lena replied. "This wouldn't be happening without your backing." "I simply provided the opportunity," Elijah said. "You're the one making it worthwhile." They walked together to the elevator, discussing next steps for the mobile banking initiative. As they reached Lena's floor, Elijah said, "We should celebrate your success. Dinner, perhaps, this Friday?" Lena hesitated, caught off guard by the invitation. "I'd have to find a sitter for Lucy." "Bring her along," Elijah suggested easily. "I know a place with excellent food that's still child-friendly." The elevator doors opened, but Lena didn't move. "Is this a business dinner or something else?" she asked. Elijah's expression revealed nothing of his thoughts. "Does it matter?" "Yes," Lena said firmly. "It does." Elijah considered her for a moment. "I enjoy your company, Lena. I like to spend time with you outside the office. If that makes you uncomfortable, we can certainly keep our relationship strictly professional." "It's not that," Lena said quickly. "It's just I have Lucy to consider in everything I do, and you're my boss." "It's complicated." "Life usually is," Elijah replied. "Think about it. The invitation stands." That evening, as Lena bathed Lucy and prepared dinner in their small apartment, she considered Elijah's invitation. The past months had transformed her life in ways she could never have anticipated. She had gone from struggling single mother to respected professional with a promising career path. Her financial situation had stabilized. She'd even started a modest savings account, all because she had accidentally gotten into Elijah Morgan's car. She owed him her gratitude, certainly, but did she owe him more? And what did she want from this relationship that had begun so strangely? Lena's friend Tamika came over later that evening to share a cup of tea. After Lucy was asleep, Lena explained her dilemma. "Girl, you're overthinking this," Tamika said after listening to Lena's concerns. "The man asked you to dinner, not to marry him." "But he's my boss," Lena protested. "What if it gets awkward? What if it affects my job?" Tamika gave her a knowing look. "Is that really what you're worried about? Or are you scared of letting someone new into your life and Lucy's?" The question hit closer to home than Lena wanted to admit. Since becoming pregnant, she had focused entirely on survival and creating stability for her daughter. Romance hadn't even been on her radar. "I barely know him," Lena said. "So get to know him," Tamika replied with a shrug. "That's what dinner is for." Later, after Tamika had gone home, Lena stood in Lucy's doorway, watching her daughter sleep peacefully. The tiny apartment that had once felt like a step down from where she had hoped to be now felt like a safe harbor. She had created this stability for Lucy through her own determination and hard work, but also because Elijah Morgan had seen something in her worth investing in. Perhaps it was time to trust her own judgment as much as he had trusted his. The next morning, Lena stopped by Elijah's office before her first meeting. "About dinner," she said, standing in his doorway. "Friday works for me. For us," she amended, thinking of Lucy. Elijah looked up from his computer, his expression warming. "I'm glad to hear it. I'll make reservations for 7. As Lena turned to leave, he added, "And Lena, this isn't a business dinner." She met his gaze steadily. "I didn't think it was." Walking back to her office, Lena felt a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. Whatever was developing between her and Elijah, friendship, mentorship, or something more, she had decided to face it directly rather than hiding behind excuses of professional boundaries. Life had taught her that sometimes the biggest risks led to the most unexpected rewards. The restaurant Elijah had chosen was an elegant bistro in a converted brownstone, its atmosphere sophisticated yet welcoming. Despite his wealth and status, Elijah seemed to prefer places with character rather than flashy establishments where people went to be seen. Lena arrived with Lucy precisely at 7, feeling both nervous and excited. She had agonized over what to wear before settling on a simple blue dress that made her feel confident without being overdressed. Elijah was already waiting, rising from his table as they approached. "You look lovely," he said, his eyes taking in Lena's appearance with obvious appreciation. "Thank you," Lena replied, suddenly shy. She adjusted Lucy on her hip. "I hope it's really okay that I brought her." "Of course," Elijah said, reaching out to touch Lucy's hand. To Lena's surprise, her normally cautious daughter grabbed his finger with a delighted gurgle. "I specifically requested a table where a high chair wouldn't block the aisle," Elijah explained. Sure enough, a wooden high chair was already positioned at their table, along with a small basket of soft toys suitable for a baby. The thoughtfulness of this gesture touched Lena deeply. Once they were seated and Lucy was contentedly exploring the toys, an awkward silence fell between them. Outside the familiar context of work, Lena realized how little she actually knew about Elijah on a personal level. "I don't think I've ever seen you in anything but business attire," she commented, noting his casual button-down shirt and lack of tie. "I do occasionally take off the armor," he replied with a small smile, "though not as often as I probably should." Their server arrived with menus and took their drink orders: sparkling water for Lena and a glass of red wine for Elijah. "So," Lena said after the server left, "we've established this isn't a business dinner. What is it then?" Elijah considered her question seriously. "I thought we might get to know each other better outside the constraints of the office. No agendas, no proposals to review. Just two people having dinner." With a very charming third wheel, Elijah added, glancing at Lucy, who was now happily banging a soft block on the high-chair tray. The simple acknowledgement of the reality that Lena and Lucy were a package deal eased some of the tension Lena had been carrying. Whatever this evening was or might become, Elijah clearly understood that her daughter would always be her priority. As they ordered and began to eat, the conversation flowed more easily. They discovered shared interests in history and architecture and a mutual love of old movies that surprised them both. "Casablanca is a masterpiece," Elijah insisted when Lena mentioned it was her favorite film. "I watched it with my mother when I was a teenager," Lena said, her voice softening at the memory. She loved classic films. Said they had a depth modern movies often lack. "She sounds like a wise woman," Elijah observed. "She raised me alone after my father left when I was 6. Worked 2 jobs most of my life, but still made time for movie nights and helping with homework." Elijah's expression grew thoughtful. "She'd be proud of the mother you've become to Lucy." The unexpected comment brought tears to Lena's eyes. She blinked them away quickly, focusing on cutting her food into smaller pieces. "What about your parents?" she asked, deflecting attention from her emotional response. A shadow passed over Elijah's face. "My father was difficult. My mother did her best, but she was scared of him. We all were." The simple statement explained so much about the reserved, cautious man across from her. "Is that why you left home at 17? Lena asked, recalling a detail from their conversation months ago. "Yes. After a particularly bad night, I packed what I could carry and never went back." "That must have been terrifying," Lena said softly. "Less terrifying than staying," Elijah replied. "I lived in my car for a while, worked whatever jobs I could find, eventually got a scholarship to state college. The rest, as they say, is history." Lena studied his face, seeing beyond the successful businessman to the scared teenager who had found the courage to forge his own path. "We're not so different, you and I," she observed, "both making our way without much of a safety net. Perhaps that's why." Elijah began, then stopped himself. "Why what?" Lena prompted. He smiled slightly. "Why I felt I knew something about you that day in the car, even before we spoke." The moment hung between them, charged with unspoken connection. Then Lucy dropped her sippy cup with a clatter, breaking the spell. As the evening continued, they shared stories from their lives, carefully navigating around the more painful topics. Lena described her college years, working nights to pay tuition. Elijah told her about his first failed business venture and the lessons he had learned from it. By the time dessert arrived, a chocolate cake that Lucy eyed with undisguised interest, Lena felt she was seeing the real Elijah Morgan for the first time. Beneath the confident exterior was a man who understood struggle and resilience intimately. "May I?" Elijah asked, gesturing to the small bite of cake on his fork, and then to Lucy. "Sure," Lena said, surprised by the request. She loves sweet things. "Gets that from me, I'm afraid." Carefully, Elijah offered the tiny taste to Lucy, who grabbed his hand and guided the fork to her mouth with startling precision. Her eyes widened with delight at the chocolate flavor. "I think we have a chocolate fan." Elijah laughed, the sound warm and genuine. Lena watched the interaction with a mixture of emotions she couldn't quite untangle. Seeing Elijah connect with her daughter created a tug of longing she hadn't expected, not just for companionship for herself, but for a father figure for Lucy. Later, as Elijah drove them home, Lena's mind raced with questions about where this evening might lead. She hadn't dated since before Lucy was born, and the prospect both thrilled and terrified her. Elijah pulled up in front of her apartment building and came around to open her door. As Lena stepped out with a sleeping Lucy in her arms, she felt suddenly self-conscious about her modest apartment complex. "Thank you for dinner," she said. "I had a wonderful time." "So did I," Elijah replied, his voice low to avoid waking Lucy. "Let me walk you to your door." The offer was simple, but felt significant. Lena nodded, leading the way up the cracked concrete steps to the building's entrance. The lobby light was flickering again, casting uneven shadows as they walked to the elevator. Lena was acutely aware of the building's shortcomings: the faded carpet, the lingering smell of someone's spicy cooking, the graffiti partially scrubbed from mailboxes. But if Elijah noticed these details, he gave no indication. His focus remained entirely on Lena and Lucy. As they rode the elevator to the fourth floor in comfortable silence, Lena felt something shifting inside her, the wall she had built for protection beginning to develop the smallest of cracks. The next morning, as Lena stood at the coffee station in the break room, Diane, one of the senior financial analysts, commented casually, "So you're dating the boss." Lena nearly spilled her coffee. "Excuse me?" Diane raised an eyebrow. "You and Elijah were seen at Bellini's on Friday night. News travels fast around here." Lena carefully stirred cream into her coffee, buying time to compose her thoughts. She and Elijah had shared one dinner. Could that even be called dating? And how is it already office gossip? "We had dinner," she said finally, keeping her voice neutral, "with my daughter present." Diane's expression softened slightly. "Look, I'm not judging. Elijah is an attractive, wealthy man, and he's single. It's natural. It's not what you're thinking," Lena protested, though she wasn't entirely sure what that was herself. "Just be careful," Diane advised, lowering her voice. "Elijah hasn't had the best track record with relationships. His ex-wife, I'm aware he's divorced," Lena interrupted, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Diane gave her a look that seemed part concern, part curiosity. "Did he tell you why?" Before Lena could respond, Carol appeared in the break room doorway. "Lena, the community outreach team is waiting in your office for the 9 o'clock. Grateful for the interruption, Lena nodded. "Thanks, Carol. I'm coming now." As she hurried to her meeting, Lena tried to push the conversation with Diane from her mind. Office gossip was inevitable in any workplace. She wouldn't let it distract her from her responsibilities. But throughout the day, she noticed the glances, the whispers that stopped when she entered a room. By afternoon, the tension of being the subject of speculation had given her a pounding headache. To her relief, Elijah was out of the office at meetings all day. She wasn't sure she could have maintained her professional composure if forced to interact with him while hyper-aware of the rumors circulating about them. When Lena picked up Lucy from daycare at the end of the day, the center's director, Miss Patel, pulled her aside. "Lucy had a wonderful day," she said warmly. "And I wanted to personally thank you for bringing the Community Empowerment Initiative to West Side. My sister lives in Riverdale Heights, and your mobile banking program will make such a difference there." The genuine gratitude in the woman's eyes reminded Lena why she was here. Not for office politics or potential romance, but to make a real difference in people's lives. "Thank you for saying that," Lena replied. Sometimes it was easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget the bigger picture. Miss Patel smiled. "You've accomplished so much in such a short time. Mr. Morgan made the right choice bringing you on board." The comment, though well-intentioned, hit a nerve. After Diane's insinuations earlier, Lena wondered if Elijah had hired her because he saw her potential or if there had been other motivations from the beginning. That night, after putting Lucy to bed, Lena sat on her small balcony with a cup of tea, trying to sort through her confused feelings. The dinner with Elijah had been wonderful, comfortable yet exciting, the conversation flowing naturally. She had glimpsed the man behind the successful businessman and found herself drawn to both versions of him. But now, with rumors swirling, doubts crept in. Was she risking her professional reputation? Was she setting herself up for heartbreak? And how would any of this affect Lucy, who was already showing attachment to Elijah after just one dinner? Her phone chimed with a text message. "Elijah, I hope your Monday wasn't too difficult. People talk. I'm sorry if it's made things uncomfortable for you." Lena stared at the message, surprised that he was already aware of the office gossip. She typed carefully. "It's been interesting. I didn't realize dinner would become breaking news." His response came quickly. West Side isn't much different from a small town in some ways. I should have warned you. After a moment's hesitation, Lena asked the question foremost in her mind. Does it bother you to talk? There was a longer pause before his reply. Only if it bothers you. I've learned to ignore what others think of my personal life. Lena considered his words. She had spent too much of her life worrying about judgment. From her professors when she became pregnant, from potential employers when they realized she was a single mother, from other parents who noticed her worn clothes and budget stroller. She typed, I care more about doing my job well than what people whisper about in the break room. His response made her smile. That's one of the many things I admire about you, Lena Stevens. They texted for another hour, the conversation shifting from office politics to books they had recently read to Lucy's latest developmental milestone. When Lena finally said goodnight, her earlier doubts had receded somewhat, replaced by a warm certainty that whatever was developing between them was worth exploring despite the complications. The next morning, Lena arrived at work determined to focus solely on her responsibilities. She had a full day of meetings with community partners for the mobile banking initiative and couldn't afford to be distracted by office gossip. As she stepped off the elevator, Carol intercepted her with a worried expression. Nathaniel Hargrove is waiting in your office, she said in a low voice. He wants to discuss the community initiative. Lena frowned. Hargrove was one of the board members who had seemed most skeptical during her presentation. Did he say why? Carol shook her head. Just that it was urgent. Lena straightened her shoulders and headed to her office, where a gray-haired man in an expensive suit was examining the framed photo of Lucy on her desk. Mr. Hargrove, Lena said, extending her hand. This is an unexpected pleasure. He turned, his expression unreadable as he shook her hand briefly. Miss Stevens, thank you for making time for me. Lena gestured to the chairs by her small conference table. Rather than taking a seat behind her desk, a subtle power move her mother had taught her. Never let someone intimidate you in your own space. Hargrove sat, adjusting his tie. I'll get straight to the point. I have concerns about the direction of the Community Empowerment Division. Lena nodded. I'm happy to address any specific questions about our initiatives. My concern is more about leadership, Hargrove said, his eyes sharp. Specifically, the appearance of impropriety. Lena kept her expression neutral, though her heart began to pound. I'm not sure I understand. I think you do, Hargrove countered. Your relationship with Elijah Morgan raises questions about your qualifications for this position. The implications stung. Lena took a careful breath before responding. Mr. Hargrove, I was hired based on my education and experience. My master's degree in business analytics and my understanding of the communities we're trying to serve make me uniquely qualified for this role. Perhaps, Hargrove conceded, but perception matters in business, Miss Stevens. When a young, relatively inexperienced woman is suddenly promoted to director level and then seen dining intimately with the CEO, people draw conclusions. Lena felt heat rising in her cheeks but kept her voice steady. First, Mr. Hargrove, my dinner with Mr. Morgan was hardly intimate. My infant daughter was present throughout. Second, my work should speak for itself. The mobile banking initiative has already garnered positive press and community support. Your work is promising, Hargrove admitted, which is why I'm concerned about anything that might undermine it. Banking is a conservative industry. Our clients and partners expect a certain decorum. Lena leaned forward slightly. Mr. Hargrove, with all due respect, it sounds like you're more concerned with outdated perceptions than with the actual success of our programs. Hargrove's eyebrows rose at her directness. I'm concerned with the reputation of this company, Miss Stevens. A reputation Elijah's father and I spent decades building. The mention of Elijah's father, information Lena hadn't known, momentarily threw her, but she recovered quickly. Then we share the same goal, she said firmly. Because the Community Empowerment Division will enhance Westside's reputation by demonstrating our commitment to serving all communities, not just the wealthy ones. For a long moment, Hargrove studied her, his expression calculating. Then he stood abruptly. You're confident. I'll give you that, he said, but confidence doesn't always translate to capability. I'll be watching the performance of your division very closely, Miss Stevens. I welcome the scrutiny, Lena replied, standing as well. Our results will speak for themselves. After Hargrove left, Lena sank back into her chair, her hands trembling slightly from the confrontation. The implication that she hadn't earned her position cut deeply. A soft knock at her door made her look up. Elijah stood there, his expression concerned. I just passed Nathaniel in the hallway, he said. He looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. Despite her lingering upset, Lena smiled at the description. That might have been my fault. Elijah stepped into the office, closing the door behind him. What happened? Lena hesitated, unsure how much to share, but the genuine concern in Elijah's eyes decided her. He came to express his concerns about my leadership, specifically that our dinner might create the perception that I didn't earn my position. Elijah's face darkened. Nathaniel oversteps. Your qualifications were clear to everyone on the hiring committee. Were they? Lena asked quietly. Or did they just defer to your judgment? Elijah looked startled by the question. Lena, I didn't unilaterally decide to hire you. The committee reviewed your resume, your references. Your credentials were impeccable. But you championed me, Lena pressed. After meeting me for all of an hour. Elijah sat in the chair Hargrove had vacated. Yes, I did. Because in that hour, I saw more potential and genuine commitment than I've seen in many executives I've known for years. His sincerity was difficult to doubt, but Lena needed clarity. And our dinner? The rumors? Does that complicate things for you professionally? I've been running this company for 15 years, Elijah said. I've earned the right to have dinner with whomever I choose without justifying it to Nathaniel Hargrove or anyone else. The confidence in his statement was undeniably attractive, but Lena had Lucy to consider, a career to protect. I can't afford complications, Lena said honestly. This job, this opportunity, it's everything to me and Lucy. I know, Elijah replied, and I would never do anything to jeopardize that. If you think we should keep our relationship strictly professional, I'll respect that decision. Lena studied his face, reading the sincerity there and something else, a vulnerability he rarely allowed to show. I don't think that's what I want, she admitted, but I need to be careful. For Lucy's sake, as well as my own. Elijah nodded. Then we'll be careful. Take things slowly. See where this leads without letting it interfere with our professional responsibilities. The reasonable approach reassured Lena. I can work with that. Elijah smiled. Good. Now, I believe you have a meeting with the community partners from Riverdale Heights in 15 minutes. Don't let Nathaniel Hargrove distract you from the important work you're doing. As he left, Lena felt a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever was developing between her and Elijah, and whatever obstacles they might face, she wouldn't let it derail the opportunity she had been given to make a real difference through her work. With fresh determination, she gathered her materials for the meeting, pushing thoughts of office politics and budding romance to the back of her mind. For now, the work came first. The rest would sort itself out in time. 6 months had passed since Lena's chance encounter with Elijah's car in the rain. Spring had given way to summer, and now autumn painted the city with vibrant reds and golds. In that time, Lena's Community Empowerment Division had launched 3 successful initiatives, including the mobile banking program that now served 5 underbanked neighborhoods. Lucy had celebrated her first birthday with a small party at the park near their apartment. Lena had invited only a few people, Tamika and her son, Carol from the office, and Elijah. Watching Elijah help Lucy blow out her single candle, Lena had felt a completeness she hadn't thought possible a year ago. Their relationship had developed gradually, both of them mindful of the professional boundaries they needed to maintain at work. Weekend outings with Lucy had become a regular occurrence. Visits to the Children's Museum, picnics in the park, even a day trip to the beach during the late summer heatwave. Tonight, however, was different. For the first time, Elijah had invited Lena to his home for dinner. Tamika had offered to babysit Lucy, insisting that Lena needed an adult evening out. He's seen you in mom mode for months, Tamika had said as she helped Lena choose an outfit. Time to remind him you're a woman too. Now, standing outside Elijah's penthouse apartment in the city's most exclusive neighborhood, Lena felt a flutter of nervousness. She smoothed the skirt of her dark green dress, a splurge she had justified as an investment in her professional wardrobe, and pressed the doorbell. Elijah opened the door himself, dressed in casual slacks and a light sweater that softened his usually formal appearance. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes appreciative as he welcomed her inside. Lena had expected luxury, but the reality of Elijah's home surprised her. While undeniably expensive, the space was warm and inviting, with comfortable furniture and walls lined with books. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city skyline, now glowing in the early evening light. "This isn't what I imagined," Lena admitted as Elijah offered her a glass of wine. "What did you expect? Marble statues and uncomfortable furniture that no one actually sits on?" he asked with a smile. "Something like that," Lena laughed. "This feels like a real home. I spend too much time here for it to be uncomfortable." Elijah said, though I'll admit I had help from a designer. "My own taste runs more to function than style." He led her to the kitchen, where something delicious simmered on the stove. "You cook?" Lena asked, genuinely surprised. "Another survival skill from my early days," Elijah explained, stirring the pot. "Ramen gets old quickly when you're living on your own at 17. Lena leaned against the counter, watching him work. "You never talk much about that time." Elijah was quiet for a moment, focusing on the food. "It wasn't pleasant," he said finally, "but it shaped me, taught me resilience. Like Lucy has shaped me," Lena observed. "Exactly. Our challenges become part of who we are." The moment felt intimate in a way their previous times together hadn't. Perhaps because they were alone without Lucy as a buffer, or perhaps because they were in Elijah's private space rather than a restaurant or public park. Dinner was served on the balcony, with the city spread before them like a carpet of lights. The food was simple but delicious, a hearty pasta dish with crusty bread and a fresh salad. "I can't believe you made this yourself," Lena said, accepting a second helping. "You're full of surprises, Elijah Morgan." "I hope good ones," he replied. As they ate, their conversation flowed easily from work projects to books they'd recently read. Lena shared stories of Lucy's latest adventures in walking, while Elijah described his plans to expand the Community Empowerment Division to other cities if Lena's programs continued their success. "I've been meaning to ask," Lena said as they finished dessert, a rich chocolate cake that reminded her of their first dinner together. "How did you become interested in community banking? It doesn't seem like the typical focus for someone in your position." Elijah was quiet for a moment, swirling the last of his wine. "My mother," he said finally. "After she left my father, she struggled financially. No credit history, no banking relationship of her own. Predatory lenders were her only option when emergencies arose." The personal connection to Lena's work surprised her. "You never mentioned that before." "It's not something I talk about often," Elijah admitted. "But when you proposed the mobile banking initiative, I saw a chance to create the kind of resource that might have changed her life." Lena reached across the table and took his hand. "Thank you for sharing that with me." His fingers tightened around hers. "You make it easy to share things I usually keep to myself." After dinner, they moved to the living room sofa with cups of coffee. The city lights twinkled beyond the windows, creating a cozy intimacy in the dimly lit room. "I should probably call and check on Lucy," Lena said, reaching for her phone. "Of course," Elijah replied. "Use the study if you'd like some privacy." He pointed to a door off the main living area. The small gesture, understanding her need to connect with her daughter even during their evening together, touched Lena deeply. She made the call quickly, reassured by Tamika's report that Lucy was sleeping peacefully after a busy day of play. When she returned to the living room, Elijah was standing by the windows, looking out at the city. He turned as she approached, his expression thoughtful. "Everything okay at home?" he asked. "Perfect," Lena said. "Lucy's sound asleep." Elijah smiled. "She's an amazing child. You've done a remarkable job with her." "Thank you," Lena said softly. "That means a lot to me." He moved closer, his eyes holding hers. "You mean a lot to me," he said simply. The words hung between them, honest and unadorned. Lena felt the last of her hesitation falling away. She had spent months getting to know this man, his integrity, his kindness, his quiet strength. In all that time, he had never once made her feel like her status as a single mother was a burden or a complication. You mean a lot to me, too, she replied. Elijah reached out, his hand gently touching her cheek. May I kiss you, Lena Stevens? The formal request made her smile. Yes, you may, Elijah Morgan. The kiss was gentle at first, a tentative exploration that quickly deepened as months of restrained attraction found expression. When they finally pulled apart, Lena felt slightly dazed, her heart racing. I wanted to do that for a very long time, Elijah admitted, his voice rough with emotion. Why did you wait? Lena asked. Because I wanted to be sure, he replied. Sure that what I felt was real, not just attraction. Sure that you were ready. Sure that we could build something that wouldn't complicate your life or Lucy's. The thoughtfulness behind his restraint only made Lena more certain of her feelings for him. This was a man who considered consequences, who didn't rush into anything without careful thought. And are you sure now? She asked. Elijah's answer was another kiss, this one leaving no doubt about his certainty. Later, as they sat close together on the sofa, talking quietly about hopes and dreams neither had shared with anyone else, Lena felt a sense of rightness that had been missing from her life for too long. It's getting late, she said reluctantly, glancing at her watch. I should get home. I'll drive you, Elijah offered immediately. You don't have to. I want to, he interrupted gently. It's not a question of necessity, Lena. The simple statement summed up so much about how their relationship had evolved. What had begun as Elijah helping her out of necessity, offering her a job when she desperately needed one, had become something chosen freely by both of them. As they drove through the quiet streets, Lena's hand held securely in his. She thought about the journey that had brought them here. A mistaken car door, a rainy day, a chance encounter that had changed everything. What are you thinking about? Elijah asked, glancing over at her pensive expression. How sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the best outcomes, Lena replied with a smile. When they reached her apartment building, Elijah insisted on walking her to her door. Outside her apartment, he kissed her again, a gentle goodnight that held promise without demand. When can I see you again? He asked. Both of you, he amended, including Lucy in his question. How about Sunday? Lena suggested. Lucy and he usually go to the farmer's market in the morning. Sunday sounds perfect, Elijah agreed. As Lena watched him walk away, she felt a certainty she hadn't expected. Whatever challenges might lie ahead, office politics, different backgrounds, the complexities of building a relationship while raising a child, they would face them together. Inside, she found Tamika dozing on the couch. Her friend woke as Lena entered, instantly alert for details. Well, Tamika demanded in a whisper. How was it? Lena couldn't contain her smile. It was, she searched for the right word, promising. Tamika rolled her eyes. Girl, your face says a lot more than promising. Lena laughed softly. Fine. It was wonderful. He's wonderful. I told you so, Tamika said smugly. Now, details. And don't you dare leave anything out. As Lena filled her friend in on the evening, she felt lighter than she had in years. The wall she had built around her heart, necessary protection during the difficult times, were finally coming down, brick by careful brick. The autumn days grew shorter as Lena and Elijah's relationship deepened. At work, they maintained their professional boundaries, but evenings and weekends increasingly found them together, often with Lucy, who had developed a clear attachment to Elijah. Today, they were at the park near Lena's apartment, enjoying the crisp November air. Lucy toddled between them on the leaf-strewn path, each tiny hand held securely by an adult. 1, 2, 3 up, Elijah counted, swinging Lucy gently into the air as she squealed with delight. Lena watched them, her heart full. Over the past weeks, she had seen a side of Elijah few others witnessed, playful, patient, genuinely interested in Lucy's development. He read the same picture book 10 times without complaint if Lucy demanded it, and had learned all her favorite foods and games. Again, Lucy demanded, Again, please. Lena corrected gently. Peace, Lucy added, looking up at Elijah with adoring eyes. Well, since you asked so nicely, Elijah laughed, swinging her up again. They continued their walk, eventually stopping at a playground where Lucy could explore the toddler-safe equipment. As she played in the sand with a bucket and shovel, Elijah and Lena sat on a nearby bench, close enough to watch her, but allowing her the independence she craved. "I've been thinking," Elijah said, his tone more serious than it had been all afternoon. Lena stiffened slightly. "What kind of changes?" "For one, I like us to stop pretending at work that we're just colleagues," Elijah said. "The whole office knows we're seeing each other anyway." Lena nodded slowly. While they had been discreet, their relationship wasn't exactly a secret. And the other changes, Elijah seemed to choose his next.